Eswatini, y'all better stand up for this one. Gaho Manzini Shiselweni Lubombo Mbabane Sifu Waterford Lake Forest College. Stand
Yes,
up.
sir. Yes, sir.
All you Swati youngins getting older by the day. Today you don't get to hide your matured Swazi Jive merch. Today you remember memories with friends at the Hipnotik Festival. You remember how you came alive on those socials, how you enjoyed inspiration from seeing the Jeepo and the homies look like an army, that supercar lifestyle. Listen, I digress. So, what do you call a young father, a brand architect, an entertainment exec, an events guru, an entrepreneur, a soccer crazed athlete, the homie with a genuine smile, silly with a sense of humor, and with social capital for days? Listen, many love to hate him, even more love him and the work he's put in. They say he's dealing in estate property now. Some call him SK. Some have labeled him Baby Billionaire. I'm talking about none other than Sakhile Nkambule.
What's up, bro? What up, V?
Awe.
I'm so excited to be here, brother. Thank you for having me.
Siyabonga, Msuthu. This is a special episode where we're going to talk about contracts, copyrights, and conflicts, navigating the music industry legally. Behind this camera is your host, Vilimile Kumete.
Yes, sir.
Let's jump right into it. We're basically first going to talk about what an artist license agreement is.
Okay.
Can you just break that up for us in the simplest way you can? What is an artist license agreement?
Yes. This is a great starting point for today's conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you to Nkantolo Podcast for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. And listen, some of the terminology we use today could be very confusing. Some of it, you may need to pause and go Google some things because we don't have time to explain everything. But with artist licenses, it's simply an agreement by an artist to a third party. So that could be a record label, a promoter, an agency that allows the third party to use their image or their work anyhow they want or however that agreement stipulates. So a popular artist license agreement is the record deal, where an artist licenses all their rights, their image rights, their music rights to a label. Some of you guys know me for the Hipnotik Festival. Some of your favorite artists used to license their names to me so I could use their names on my posters. Some of your favorite artists have licensed their voices to me so I could use their voices in my promotion, on material, or on songs. So all that was stipulated in our Hipnotik contracts. Artist licenses can be very tricky, and as you guys will hear in today's podcast, they have different types of licenses and different types of licensing agreements. So the music industry can get very, very technical. Yeah.
Thank you, SK.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, let's get now right back into the music.
Yeah.
We always hear this conversation about masters.
Yeah.
Do you own your masters? Prince owned his masters. So-and-so doesn't own his masters. What is this concept of master rights? If you can just break that down in the most simplest terms you possibly can.
Master
high court.
Master and boss. Master. We're gonna keep this in Nkantolo level. Come on, master's the owner.
Yeah.
If I say I own the masters, I have the rights to reproduce that song any way I want, to distribute any way I want, to market it any way I want, because I'm the owner. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, artists want to negotiate keeping a share of their masters when they are negotiating their licensing agreements. This is what I always encourage artists to keep, especially nowadays, where being independent, that's what we are referring to, is when you are the sole owner most of the time of those masters, of your work. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean other people can use that work, because you, depending on the license agreement you give them, they can use that work, and I'll explain how you can control how your work is used while you retain your ownership.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
I think that breaks it up in...
Is that TikTok level music?
I mean, a baby could have understood what you said.
Okay.
So I really appreciate that explanation.
a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many professional musicians
Don't know what
don't
you
know.
just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is very serious, and I hope people comment if something isn't clear, so we can continue the conversation.
True.
Especially if there's a part like I didn't really get what Sakhile was saying about masters.
Okay.
Because if you don't get the terminology, the easy terminology, the early, you won't understand the contractual. Yeah, the business, licensing, record deals, masters. That's the business.
That's the business.
Already, just let's say that actually. The podcast done, guys. Thank you for listening. Because from there on, we talk about how we're breaking this master and who's sharing or taking a share of it, and who's.
But the roots of all of it are those three.
Yes. So now people will start understanding what this means.
I want to give a shout out to you for rocking that Swazi Jive merchandise. Like, to me, that's just personal respect to the Nkantolo Podcast, dog. This T-shirt is exactly why like people have memories. It's one side of the brand, like the conversation you and I were having earlier.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really need to generate like many pictures out of this. Like, this is what was happening at the Nkantolo Podcast. This is
Nkantolo Podcast exclusive.
Oh, wait, dog. So give us this an explanation of your ideal split sheet. People talk of split sheets, and we get this idea. I mean, back in the day, bekuba nemuva umhlawumbe no producer, kube nalo ma session artists la tawufika afake, people that play keys and drums and all this, and the person who manages and. Okay, let's talk about the split sheet.
First of all, V, at Swazi Jive, we don't have sessions that are messy.
Okay.
No one just comes in and starts playing the drums while you're in studio and then claims a share of your song because they gave you an idea. It's very important. No, I know it's funny, and I hope people understand that some studio sessions are run in a disorganized manner.
Yeah.
At Swazi Jive, we take pride that start with who's coming to my session.
Yes.
And what purpose will they serve in that session?
Okay.
So you could have people play a non-composition role. People maybe some people are there to make the vibe, drinks, friends, food. You must be clear as an artist. It's why am I bringing this person along? Then there's the people who help you with the actual production work. We always discuss those people very carefully because we know in the back of our heads these are the people we're splitting the risk with, our money with, our brand credibility with, our brand equity, everything. If they're going to even have a say, even if you're a brilliant musician, if you're not invited to the session, we won't let you contribute anything because you're not in the song's plans. So let's start there. Split sheet is simply a document that says who owns what from this master. Remember, the master is our song.
Yes.
So you could be 100% owner if really you sat there and made everything yourself. You understand?
And the equipment was yours.
Equipment's yours.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories about you in my house, electricity, all those stuff. Yeah. That's applicable.
Okay.
I'm at a law firm, so I'm going to use applicable. So,
better recognize.
60-40 for me is an ideal split sheet. Yeah. I've done 80-20 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done 80-20, which seems harsh, but we were paying a lot for a lot of things on behalf of the artist.
Okay.
But it was only a 2-year agreement.
You say, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you say 80-20 in terms of splits.
Yes.
There's someone sitting right there. Let's see. 80-20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
60% to the artist, 40% to the label.
Okay.
And then I've also done where the artist keeps a little more. And then we keep a little less because there were shorter agreements, and we're not doing that much. But I've also done long agreements, especially with the artists that were signed to Swazi Jive Records.
Okay.
Maybe some of the agreements started in 2017, some started in 2018, but most expired in 2021, 2022.
Okay.
Not when they tweeted. Okay. The split sheets that we signed for those songs fall under the record label agreement already on how the music will generate money for the label because we've already paid for you. We've given. So this is where people get things up front, like messy. Without the split sheet, there's no way to know who owns what. Okay? Doesn't matter what other agreements are there. The split sheet is so important.
And it's there to protect all parties because
All parties.
at the beginning, somebody had to part with some dough for you to get
I
your
know
art
some
out
shocking split sheet numbers that I won't
Okay.
say, even though they would do. I know we're not doing this podcast to be controversial. You guys can go out and find your own examples of conflicts in the music industry. But one thing I'll say is, I know personally of artists that have promoted big songs and they own not even 8% of that song.
Okay.
But the managers own, the label owns, the distributor owns a large percentage, maybe there's some agent who's big, who's known, who's big, who connected everyone, they own. And you find the person that's actually on the song, composed the song. These people weren't even in studio. They didn't contribute anything creatively, but they're still rightful owners. See, so it's not just about who came and played the drums.
Yes.
It's about being organized. What product are we creating? It's like I treat each song like we're registering a business.
Okay.
I treat each song like I'm about to start a business. I need a business plan. So I just released a song right now called Cash Flow. It's a single for Art Money 3.
Yeah.
That song, the business is simple. There's an artist from Botswana. There's an artist from Swaziland. Everything belongs to Swazi Jive. They've licensed their voices to me. The masters belong to Swazi Jive. But I've also will license the song to them for whatever they like to use it for. But if it boils down to any conflict, I can say, hey, I want my music back.
Yeah. And that's precisely why we
and
have
they
a
can
contract
say,
in
hey,
place.
I want my voice off that song.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So everyone's protected.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
That's
it's
the
not me
entire-
that wins only. Even the artist is protected. They can say, hey, we're not sticking to our agreement, or I'm not getting my due payment. Please take my voice off of your song.
Okay.
Because that's what I licensed. So it can get tricky, and we don't have entertainment law like that, Nalangwa. So I think it's the first time they hear it in our context. Naloguti, who then, if there's conflict, protects us?
Yeah.
The split sheet is not something we should take lightly. So what's an ideal split sheet? One that considers the project scale. Okay, one that considers who's contributing what.
Yes.
And is time bound in terms of ownership. Like, is this forever? Is this until the record deal is over? If I re-record the song on my own, can I own it? So split sheets are very simple documents. If everyone just signs the percentage and you date it, normally there's no issues.
Okay.
Music industry, there's different types of split sheets. So I've heard, I've used just a standard template.
Okay.
I don't want people to think there's some special thing we do. I can go online, maybe on Google Forms or my publisher, Symphonic Distribution, in Florida.
Shout out to Symphonic.
Symphonic collects my royalties, and they have a split sheet distribution system in my. So Swazi Jive Records, every artist I register, my publisher is responsible to report their royalties to them and send them to them, so I don't get into any trouble. So I only get what's due to me, especially if I use their split sheet feature, where I upload the split sheet that was signed, or I enter the details manually. Like Sakhile Nkambule made a song, it's 50-50. Put Vilmila Komete, I put your email, you get a notification that Sakhile just put you as a 50% owner on this master he's uploading. You will get quarterly reports.
Is it usually quarterly reports?
Usually it's quarterly.
Okay.
Usually it's quarterly, depending on how good your publisher is. You see how we're now talking about publishers while talking about split sheets. Split sheets are very important.
Yeah.
So the split sheet now tells the publisher where to send the royalties, in my case, because they're new age.
Okay.
The publisher doesn't send everything to me as the label. According to the new split sheet rules that they've put up and the system that they have. It wasn't always like that.
Okay.
And I think not all labels want that. Some people have other agreements outside of those split sheets with people. You see, you find that the artist took a loan against the label, for example, and the money that's supposed to go to the artist is supposed to go to the label to recoup. So the publisher shouldn't send them 8% that's due to the artist until the label notifies them that they've recouped what they've recouped, and then now they can. So it can get very messy and complicated.
Very complicated. Yeah, maybe would be the starting point. So Okay, you've touched now on a very important concept,
Yeah.
which is the second one,
Yeah.
which usually brings a whole lot of confusion in people's minds. You know, if I'm going to Swazi Jive and I've got my artist license agreement and I sign that, in
Yeah.
my mind, the publishing is sorted.
Yeah.
But maybe let's have a conversation just about a publishing agreement. Can you
Okay.
help us appreciate the difference between who a publisher is
Yeah.
and what the record label would be?
Okay, in the simplest terms possible.
Yeah.
Okay. One, let's acknowledge that a publisher is different from a record label.
Yes.
So we can deal with it nicely. A publisher deals with the composition. Okay, let's go back. Remember, we have a song.
Okay.
Good thing there's a record label publisher. Silence up. We have a song. Ingoma Yami. The MP3 is a WAV file. It doesn't matter. It's Ingoma Yami. When you want that song distributed and marketed, you go to a record label.
Yes.
If you want to make money from that song, you go to a publisher. If you're smart, you do both. Okay,
That's the part I wanted
yeah.
to get
So,
to. Okay.
so yeah, I didn't want to start there.
Lovely.
Where you have a record deal and a publishing agreement.
Yeah.
No, people get confused.
Okay.
Yes.
If I'm trying to get
Publisher.
a return on this,
Yes.
I need to go to those two places.
Yes, if you want to get a return of your music, the publisher is who you should really. Your publishing agreement is what you want to focus on.
Okay.
The publisher now deals with not only the song's composition, the lyrics,
Okay.
the beats,
Yes.
the melodies, anything that makes that song valuable. The song. I'm not gonna sing. I don't want this to get flagged. That's still a song.
We've all finished it in our
Yeah,
heads
dude.
already.
That song. Even if you don't think it has enough lyrics,
That song.
a publisher has every right to claim royalties.
Yeah.
If I finish that lyric, their publisher has the right to come to Will Miller's podcast
Takedown.
on TikTok, either issue a takedown notice or demand royalties. For me, that's the publisher's job.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
Am I explaining that well?
Yeah, Varale.
Not the record label's job.
Yeah.
The publisher's job, they must go collect your money. And also, they must protect songwriters. This is where they make their money.
Yes.
Yes. Songwriters, this is where they make their money.
Yeah. I brought a glass for you to pour
Yes,
in,
sir.
but I see you always organized with your water. Tell me if I should fill it in there.
No, I'll pour in the glass. It's a nice glass. I want the lawyer glass. Not my soccer water bottle.
And so this guy plays soccer every Sunday.
Yes.
Went to decide, like, hey, when are we shooting this thing? Sakhile says to me, yeah. As long as it doesn't clash with soccer on Sundays.
Yeah, anytime. No,
Shout
but
out to
yes,
the
so
soccer
I
family.
like that you want us to talk about publishers
Yes.
and record labels. So,
Yes.
Swazi Jive is your record label.
Mhm.
Okay? When you see Swazi Jive Records, you see Sakhile Nkambule. I want to sign it, Sakhile. Great. I take your music, you give me your music, you license your music, or I sign you completely because I'm a big label and you trust me and my integrity, even if you're earning your 60%,
Yes.
you're still a lot of money, right?
Yes.
Sakhile takes your music and goes and makes a publishing agreement somewhere. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be symphonic. I could go to South Africa and go to Sony Music Publishing, Warner Bros. I could stay in the country and find another label for you, whatever. I can make a publishing agreement with the Nanketa with everything. Make sure you collect everything that's due for this song. Publishers are also responsible for giving you an ISRC code, an International Song Registration Code, a UPC code, a Universal Product Code. I know I'm getting people are so impressed. I'm here.
I'm the one who needs this.
I came to a law firm. I'm putting out terminology. UPC code, ISRC code. Google, those are things I want to see comments about. People Googling those things. ASCAP and BMI.
Okay.
Google that. These are some of the world's biggest royalty firms, like publishing firms.
Okay.
Yes. I always forget which one does what between ASCAP and BMI. But when people Google, they'll see that all the industry's money is coming from these two organizations. Where your music's being streamed on Spotify, who do you think is paying you? It's not your friends. It's not your friends. Where do you think the royalty payment's coming from? It's from one of these organizations, or both. depending on how your song is registered.
Now, I'm from Madlangembisi,
Mm-hmm.
and being from Madlangembisi, I've never heard of ASCAP. I've never heard of
Yeah.
BMI. These entities are housed, let's say, outside of the country. Maybe someone's interested, but isn't, this member of the industry, let's call it that, isn't Swazi Jive Records in this thing to kind of rob me because they are the ones who are in touch with ASCAP, with BMI, with this entire world of publishing, which is a world of its own.
It's business. So it's up to you. If you want to make the relationships directly, it's up to you. It's possible. You can go on the ASCAP and BMI website and sign up as Lumile Community, and they know you through their systems, and you follow their newsletters, their procedures. That's one way. You can go to some of their agencies, like Samro. Samro is one of their agencies. Samro is also getting paid to pay you, but they're making it easier for their country. And recently, I think Samro tried to come offer the service to Swazis, and our system was like, "Hey, you can't do that.
Really?
You don't do that." Because we have our own copyright system that's about to go in place and our own royalty payment system. So everyone now is basically going to fight for your publishing agreement so they can collect your money for you on all these platforms that you're on.
Which means people also now need to go back and check what's in their contracts.
Exactly. So if you signed a lifetime ownership, something, you need to call us. Yeah, you need us right now.
You heard it here first.
Things have changed. Things have changed. You might want to rework your publishing agreements, 60-40, 80-20, and that's 80 for the artist, 60 for the artist, 50-50 in special cases. If you're taking less, it must be a very big label. So you see, this speaks to how I think you should balance your split sheets, how you should balance your record label deal, how you should balance your publishing. It's what stage you are in your career. What are you trying to achieve? Are these people even capable of my label? Can it distribute at the level where I need a publisher that's going to take 80% of my royalties? Will the 20% sustain me? Okay, is my distribution so big that 20% is like 20 million rands? See, so now you have to balance what the label's doing versus what the publisher is collecting, and what the label is doing will affect how much the publisher is reporting.
So to me, it sounds a whole lot like there really has to be a serious engagement from the part of the artist. So when I'm thinking of my artistry, I'm now speaking as the person watching this, thinking I mean my beats me, that's the artistic side of it. You're basically giving us the picture that it is extremely important to be seriously engaged,
and every step of the way,
and read and ask and talk and get answers.
We take pride as Swazi Jive that no artist of ours was ever signed without being educated.
Wow.
We had a session. I tried to actually hit up Lisha this morning before this podcast because I want to mention his name. Lo and I made sure before we sign any of the guys that they know what mechanical royalties are, performance royalties, what rights they're giving us, from image rights to their name rights, to us being able to have the ability to own these masters, license the songs
even
for commercial purposes, all that stuff. Before anyone signed, we had like a 2-week educational session. It's just me, Lisa, and the artist.
This is one of those moments where I wish I had people in the audience right now. Shout out to Swazi Jive for that.
So I know the perception is the way everyone left was messy, this and that, but that's not how everything started. The mess was a little outside of my control, but what I took pride in, it couldn't go beyond the tweets because the agreements is the first thing I emailed everyone. Like, please refer
to your
agreements. I saw what happened online, but please refer to your agreements because now you guys are putting us in a position where I must call V. Now I need to call V, and that's not going to be nice. So I was protected as the label. Isn't funny? People always talk about artists complaining. The label got protected by the same agreement that the artist was also benefiting from. So I take and I work with artists. I love artists. Everyone knows this, but I'm also a label owner. but I'm also a promoter.
Yes.
I'm also, for some people, they're a publisher.
Mm.
For some people, and in one of your questions, which I saw, you discuss the advantages and disadvantages of that.
Yeah.
And I know people are, yeah.
We want to get into it now when we specifically speak about performance contracts.
Okay.
But I'm so glad that you hit that nice segue.
Yeah.
I get developing, and I really don't need to be trying to explain the whole publishing story. The only thing Nkantolo Podcast will do for people after this is just discuss cases. This is what happened in this case. This is what the courts decided.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for clearing up the differences between publishers and record labels.
Yeah.
So do we have publishers in Eswatini? I guess from the conversation we just had about Samro, ASCAP, BMI, we don't have one that's housed Lakai.
Yeah.
So I want to give you a scenario, SK.
Yes, sir.
So maybe this is going to expose the fact that I really like stand-up comedy.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry to anyone who might be offended by that. Dave Chappelle says he signed, a contract giving a particular company the rights to use his name and likeness in perpetuity throughout the universe. He then later sees this entire deal as theft, and he refers to the industry as a monster. Before getting into the legal, the contractual, the copyright, the intellectual property side of it, do you agree with Dave Chappelle that this industry is a monster?
How are you going to have me say this on TikTok? Yeah, no, this industry is rough. Let me just get through this moment as quickly as possible. This industry is tough.
Yeah.
This industry will eat you alive. It's cutthroat. Okay? And if you are a young person out there who is considering getting into the music business, before we get to Dave Chappelle's contracts, I have friends that have suffered at the hands of this industry. I have people that have changed, lost their lives, do drugs, rely on alcohol now because of this industry. And I want to be clear, this industry is cutthroat. Dave Chappelle walking away from $50 million wasn't a joke. It's not about the money. It's realizing you're someone's slave.
Yeah.
Okay? That sort of term in your contract is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Where someone now what's in your global universe?
The universe.
Have you seen the globe yourself, nigga? What the hell do you know?
We're still debating if the earth is even flat.
Yeah.
Is it a sphere?
Someone convinced you that they have rights over you in the universe. Just think about that. Did you ask that person, what do you mean universe? Do you know the universe? So this person's basically fooled you into believing, in a sense, that wherever you go, I have the right over your image, your work. And I think at first when you get that first payment, and I'm sure people are shocked that a label owner like myself is talking like this, but this is the reality of it.
It's honest.
At first, when we give you that, that upfront payment, pay for that first big music video, introduce you to that first artist you've always wanted to meet. You get so blinded.
Just blinded.
Yeah, shut eye.
Okay.
Couple of champagne bottles. Some of them will buy you whips. Some of you have seen cases where artists sign for a label, they get a chain, a car, a house.
It's typical in the American so-called 360 deals.
They're finishing them. They're finishing them. Not to finish people, but to aid the industry, I think deals should come with perks, benefits. The unfortunate part is now people are sacrificing their souls, in a sense. They are going against how they feel about these things for these material things. For the perks. They're forgetting to negotiate the long-term creative control of their work, which was Dave Chappelle's case, in my humble opinion. I don't know the brother personally. I'm also a big fan. I'm also a big fan of Dave Chappelle. And I know that part of his life was confusing, and we should all know that that's the term, and I'm glad you bring this up. This global rights thing can hurt you in the long run, especially for if an agreement is not time bound.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for touching on the time bound aspect as well, because for me it was two things. It was in the universe, and then there's no specific time to say
Forever.
yabo, enough forever. Now makes it run into so-called perpetuity.
Mm.
Now, I've looked at a sample, of a publishing agreement and found the word territory. And I was recently having this conversation with a friend, just about, hey, when you do a contract, or when you conclude a contract, in the drafting, in the thinking of it, in the putting together of that contract, you should really have, a definition section or an interpretation section where you define
The
what
territory.
exactly, the territory amongst other terms. And so you'll find typically in publishing agreements, perhaps the ones that I've looked at in the in the time leading up to this conversation, you'll find the word territory defined as the world and the universe. You've already answered perhaps what would have been the question at the back of my mind. But, okay, so the question would have been, do you find this to be excessive?
Yes. Even okay, people tend to overestimate their abilities in my industry.
Okay.
I've been to LA, I've had meetings in LA. I've had people tell me I produced this for Kanye West.
Okay.
I've been in studios in SA. I did this for AKA. I did this for Casper. I'm this, I'm that.
These are the things people say, yeah.
Everyone oversells their abilities in our industry.
Okay.
Like, if you go in with that mentality, I think you'll come out much stronger. It's the industry where we sell each other dreams hard. And once I figured that, you know what, I read this top 100 most powerful music execs article once when I was in college.
Okay.
And I said, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this list, and I wonder what it takes. And then I realized everyone's overestimating their abilities and under delivering.
Okay.
So that term, that world territory, the global territory, ask yourself, does this person even have the ability to market me globally? Do they have the resources? When I sign this, where are the resources? You look at their office, look at what they drive, you look at their business, you look at how much their current artists are earning.
Do some research on them.
Yes. Are they the type of person that I should be signing my rights to globally? Also, it's okay to sign maybe that sort of term if it's time bound. I'm going to emphasize this point.
Okay.
Some look, because of the nature of social media, we don't know where the tour stop might be. Okay. What if now 10,000 people in Indonesia want to see you after your single drops? Yeah. But my contract is limited the scope to Southern Africa. Yeah. Now I don't have the rights to represent you in Indonesia. So most labels won't even tell you that opportunity came up, since they won't make a cent from it. You see?
So there's a benefit even there for the artist.
So there's a cost-benefit thing you have to evaluate. Now, this person that's marketing you has no right to make money from you when you go to England. And then,
why are they doing this?
Yeah, and then someone from England tries to book you. They're not going to tell you. Yo, this is the entertainment industry.
Big bad monster.
Yeah.
I absolutely love having SK as a guest in this podcast, because from my memory, in the few years that we spent knowing one another, and fooling around musically for the most part, I got to understand that Sakhile is somebody who really just tells you things as they are. So thank you also for breaking that up and telling us about the big bad monster.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about something a little bit different. Performance agreements.
Okay.
I in my observation, I can't tell. You are so invested in a lot of things marketing, but it just, correct me here if I'm wrong, I think you enjoy putting together events. I think you enjoy putting together festivals. You're a brand architect, and you can't take that away from you.
Yes, that's my mind.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But just give me an idea. Is this the thing you enjoy the most in the space that you're in? Maybe it's an unfair question, But think about that before you think about that question first. Then the next question that I wanted to ask you about, performances, is this aspect of having different parties playing different roles. So we've got the artist, the manager, the agent, the tour promoter. You don't have to necessarily define specifically what they each mean, but would you advocate for all those roles being rolled up into one? Would you advocate for having a division of labor? Let's call it that. So my question first, very selfishly, do you enjoy putting together events like Hipnotik?
I feel like this is a trap because it's about Hipnotik, and then it's like, should a person do it all? I do it all, mostly.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm so hurt that I can't do it. And I think it's the first time everyone has got to hear me say that. It hurts me every day. It's been depressing. And it is true that I've been blocked from doing events. It's not by my choice that I'm not doing events, And the reason I love events is because of the challenge. When you have a mind like mine, all those moving parts give me some thrill. And to be able to do it back to back for close to 10 years and only better and better each time, you can't imagine how proud I am of myself. You can't imagine how complex the risk assessment plans. We're about to talk about one aspect of it, which is the performance agreement. Yes. That's one out of maybe 30.
Just different nuts that have to fasten. Okay.
Maybe that's the performance agreements, like one of maybe 20, 30 types of agreements.
Yes.
I have to have to make one event happen. See, I love. That's what I live off of, and I also enjoy seeing, in a non-negative way, so many people try and fall under the bar, because it's a testament to how great our strides were, and for them to find any sort of success, they're almost replicating Hipnotik moves, and I don't think they should be embarrassed. I just think, I said this to a friend, there's just no space for them in the market if we do announce something. That's the problem. Is their business plan ends when they say Hipnotik's back.
I need to keep it together. Look, I heard you speak one time about the way you want to build up this Hipnotik brand. You want it to just be that legendary. Is it a golden
H? Like just the
with
H.
just a date.
Yes.
And nothing else. No lineup, no artists, nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh,
you remember that conversation? That's crazy.
I don't remember exactly where I watched it, but come on, dog.
Man.
Quit playing with me.
That's crazy. Because you know what? There's a year where the newspapers just put out the H and the date, and everyone went crazy. It was like the first experiment where I had an ad, full page, where it's just the H and the date, and everyone knew what it was. Yeah. And I'm like, it's happening.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's happening. Like, people know when this is Hipnotik. That's for me. People think it was always big. The way they treat me, they're like,
Benda also see it didn't start somewhere.
There's a time the Observer changed their logo to gold the weekend of Hipnotik. It was called the Hipnotik edition. Observer of Southern Hipnotik edition, and then everything was gold.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was like Hipnotik was branding the country. So if you turn your logo gold, we knew you're like paying homage to us. And the newspapers turn their logo on the newspaper.
That's a crazy shout out. Like,
right?
That's mad respect.
So now the color also, it's funny you say the gold thing. I didn't realize now the color. See, if this was a publishing agreement, the composition of my brand is gold, the H, the word Hipnotik,
and then the background
of it, the date. Those things are my proprietary. What is it? And you're like, okay, it's a trademark breakdown.
Okay, intellectual property.
Yeah, so these things interlink. And performance agreements, Hipnotik. That's all Hipnotik is. Without those performance agreements, there's no agreements with suppliers. There's no agreements with my team. There's no agreements with media companies. There's no agreements with the city. There's no agreements with the police, fire, all emergency services. There's no agreements with all stakeholders without that performance agreement we're about to talk about.
Okay.
So I think that's a nice segue to say, this is an important agreement.
So one of the things that I find in this agreement, and I must let anyone listening to the Nkantolo podcast today know that Sakhile was diligent enough just to give us some samples, like, okay, this is typically what it looks like.
Yeah.
In a performance agreement, my mind was triggered by a specific clause or a specific provision or a specific aspect of the agreement. And that is the exclusivity clause. So I'm just quickly going to say what I think it is because of how I read it.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a date you're supposed to come and perform at the Hipnotik Festival, Nyabegisa. I'm not saying this is what a Hipnotik Festival.
I understand. Yeah.
Before you come, you're not to perform anywhere else. Let's say if it's held in Ezulwini or it's held in Manzini or Stegi, you're not going to perform in Stegi. And this is the first type of agreement. It will say you cannot perform in Stegi or you cannot perform in the Kingdom of Eswatini 30 days before the event, and you can't perform in Eswatini 40 days after, or maybe 20 or 10 or 15 or whatever, after the performance that you've done at that particular event. Now, that's the first type of performance agreement. The question then that I have, what's the logic behind that?
Exclusive. It's to protect the event from the artist selling tickets at another event. It takes away, it decreases the sales of the promoter. When you ask an artist to sign an exclusive performance agreement, you want to also, like, the hype of that artist, you control it to your event. So even if, I announce, for example, RAP AKA, for the longest time, Bushfire couldn't book AKA if he was coming to Hipnotik because of this clause.
Okay.
Even though Bushfire happened before Hipnotik. See, it can get very tricky.
Now, here's another thing that I find.
Yes, exclusivity.
Yeah.
From the artist side, because remember we're doing both sides for our podcast.
Yes.
The artist, it's important they limit the scope in terms of the duration of the exclusivity to lower 30 days, 20 days, 10 days. So they can take, or sometimes it's limited by radius. I see you going by days. Sometimes it's by...
That's the second kind of agreement that we're going to get into, but I'm glad you're touching on it now.
Perfect. So let's focus on...
No, please do speak about the radius between those two.
Sometimes it'll be like, if I have a show in Babane, you can't take another show in Babane for this weekend.
Yeah.
But you can do a show in Manzini, speak. But Babane is, when it comes to your name, your brand, your music, is mine for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even though you're only performing Saturday. So now it's time bound and territorial bound. You see, so exclusivity is a nice tool in our arsenal. Y'all have tools, we got tools.
But it's one of those things an artist really needs to think about.
Yeah, you want to be smart. Yeah. You want to give exclusivity. Of course, I'll say this to guys like Sakhile, who will maximize your popularity. Yeah, and you don't give that to someone who's going to just have your image rights and not do anything about it. Like, you know that an exclusive Hipnotik performance video living on the Swazi Jive channel is the best outcome. Yeah. Asking to have that footage in your channel, you can have it. We'll give it to you.
Let's talk traction. Let's talk numbers.
Let's talk views. Let's talk business. You see, So the exclusivity one is,
Yeah.
I have exclusive rights to performances.
Mad.
Yeah, I'm making YouTube royalties. I want to show you guys
Okay.
of that term in that contract.
Okay.
That all that we're recording is for Swazi Jive. Swazi Jive paid for his cameras. Swazi Jive paid for this concert.
Putting together this entire concert.
So anything we record here, even your music, is mine. But then your labels can take their royalties from the video.
Okay.
So that's why you see on my YouTube videos, you can scroll at the bottom, you see maybe a Sony Music.
Okay.
And then it tells you the name of the song. It's because they're actually earning revenue from a video that's on my page.
And then they'll pay whoever they need to pay.
My publisher will collect.
Okay.
What's due to me, their publisher will collect what's due to them. So that's how these systems and that term, see now, but that footage is exclusively mine. Yes. And if anyone tries to post it, I have the right to take it down. I get notifications. Yeah. In fact, YouTube now doesn't even give me notifications. It just tells you that, this case is going to block you. Okay. So either you take this down or allow him to take the royalties from this video. Okay. Yeah, which results to those numbers.
Mad.
Yeah, that is sitting on YouTube right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So that term
Sin Valeme.
But yeah, as you can see, it's coming from Hipnotik.
That's crazy.
But look at the names. I don't have record.
We all know who's performed at Hipnotik, so people can put it together for themselves.
Yeah. I have different agreements.
I need to get into this business. I need to stop doing law.
I'm making it look too. We didn't get into this thing for real. We're making it look too good. If you wanna get in there,
one thing for sure, if I'm your brother like I am, and I'm looking at those numbers, well done, my boy.
Blessings, bro. And for us, we're starting from banging tables in class. It's so random to be able to earn money from art.
From that thing.
Yeah. For me, that's how I literally see it like that.
In fact, how we even struck up this conversation is I saw you. You had installed like an electronic drum kit in the house, and you're sitting in front of the TV. Yeah. The domestic bliss and chaos is happening in the back.
I don't care.
And you're like,
I'm still that guy. Yeah.
Okay, so we've spoken about the exclusivity clause.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to get into a different conversation, but because we've only got 13 minutes on the clock.
Okay.
You can just answer this with a yes or a no. Is there a difference between promotion, advertising, publicity, public relations, sales, and marketing?
Yes, there is a difference, and I can summarize.
Okay.
Like PR deals with reputation.
Okay.
Marketing and sales deals with your revenue. And then what was the other
one?
Promotion deals with direct communication.
Okay.
See, those are different.
Yeah. You've answered the question. Okay. Thank you very much. And then I've heard people speak of something called a DJing license. Does it exist? Do people use it?
Just
quick question.
Yeah, this is a Swazi podcast, right? We should skip all the things that you said there's no time, so I'm trying to speed things up. Man, let's.
I need you to be serious.
Okay, I'm trying. Okay. I think it's coming. Okay. With the copyright bill that's been passed, I'm expecting DJs to actually be paying for using our music.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we look at it like in two ways. Like, but yes, I'm DJing your music and I'm putting it in the streets because it's in the streets.
It's like to put our music in the streets. Not seen as that mix the music to the streets.
Guys enjoy basically doing that without that now. But
when it comes, we're gonna definitely exploit that law and make sure people don't play people's music without compensating them.
We'll be here to collect.
Yes.
All right. In the 10 minutes segment that we've got left now,
I
want to talk about something that's a little bit sensitive, but it's more to Vilimile Gomete's tickle as the host of the Nkantolo Podcast.
Yes.
Swaziland National Youth Council versus Swazi Jive Entertainment. On August 21, 2018, the Times of Swaziland published a story about a launch curated and implemented by Swazi Jive. The total cost, based on the papers, and anyone can go on eswatinilee.org and find this information. The total cost was around 48,000. Okay, so that was the value of it. Swazi Jive issues a summons. It's not defended. Swazi Jive takes Swazi Jive Entertainment. Maybe let me specific. Swazi Jive Entertainment gets default judgment on the basis that there's no defense, and basically they actually have a case. So then the council then applies to rescind the default judgment order which was entered against them, but they failed, according to Judge Fagutse, to demonstrate good cause, and they were then, unsuccessful in getting that judgment rescinded. Maybe let's use not so technical terminology, but getting that judgment reversed.
Okay.
So now we've got that background. I know you're going to add on more comments on this question.
Yeah.
But I just want to ask you about what's your level of trust in, the courts after that case? Because that was actually a victory for Swazi Jive.
Yes, it was a victory. I think that's a good starting point. People have seen us in the media for mostly negative things, if I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
No one publishes our victories. And people, if you look at the legal website, that's our only case on there. And we won.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Eswatini.org. I didn't find any other litigation.
I've never had any other litigation.
And I live on that website.
Yeah.
I literally.
I was so shocked when you sent me the link. I'm like, I thought I was the only one with these documents. I was like, everyone can see this. So that's why I'm like, we might as well talk about it.
Yeah,
so for real, I really didn't know that was online. So me sharing the link to everyone, for the longest time, I felt people wouldn't understand why I even sued a government entity. So I am grateful to the podcast for giving me the chance to clear the air.
Okay.
And one, I don't think there's a court system that's perfect, but I think people should trust the judicial system.
Wow.
Okay, that's the first thing.
Thank you.
But in my particular case, I didn't get what was due even after I won the judgment. Yeah.
That's the collection side of it. Like, hey, I've won, but I still haven't been paid.
Yeah, I didn't get my money, guys. And I'm not doing a Hipnotik until they pay me my money.
You heard it here first. I just got goosebumps. Were you present when the rescission was argued? Do you have any thoughts on the experience?
What does that mean?
Sorry,
so let's talk. So when you say when the rescission was argued, no, I did research on the question, but I need to ask you personally, because even when you Google these words, it gets deeper. Like low languages, then they use another word you need to research.
Why do you think lawyers are the ones writing contracts?
I found myself with like 3 dictionaries, like rescission, and then
I'm sorry, man. Okay.
So I don't want to say I wasn't present. I can say I was.
Okay, so this particular case that was decided by Judge Fagutse, where he said,
does that mean was I in court?
Were you in court on the day when your attorneys and the other parties' attorneys were arguing the matter?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And I didn't know I was supposed to be in court.
No, well, it's not necessarily. Well, the idea is that you can be there if you want to be there.
Yeah. No, it wasn't good for my image. It wasn't good for my image. Okay. I remember I remember the law firm sent me down.
Okay.
I use a very professional law firm. So they weren't going to not tell me if I was given the option to go or not go. I probably chose not to go because I didn't want pictures of me in court on public spaces. Okay. Most people take those out of context. Even if I'm winning or won, people are shocked that I won. I've never spoken about it. If anything, in the newspaper that was published was Director of Swazi Jive, warrant of arrest issued. Director of Swazi Jive, to give people the impression that I lost or something. So the media put out the opposite of what the courts put out. You can actually Google the article where there was warrants of arrest. Okay. And then you read the
actual judgment, and it
says people got the impression that I lost or did something. And I'm in trouble. Okay. That's why Hipnotik can't happen. No, Hipnotik can't happen because there's money that's due to me that wasn't paid. And instead of payments being made, a lot was influenced from my friends.
This is, by the way, now separate to this particular court case that we're talking about. There may be links, but you're now talking about suppliers and sponsors and things like that.
There's a reputational thing when you're seen in court cases. People don't associate. I'm glad you clarified that, because sometimes I get into these things because I'm in it, and people are like, "Hey, Sakhile's going crazy," and it's like, I realize people aren't walking this journey with me. They aren't seeing the change of attitude with suppliers.
Yeah. Matekelo ngeSwati, hearsay as we.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Nkantolo Podcast, by just touching on this case study, gave me the opportunity to say, oh, by the way, this is why we don't have Hipnotik. This, if you go deeper in the case, it all started with us designing intellectual property called the National Youth Summit for our government to help empower young people to get jobs in different industries, not just the entertainment. And Swazi Jive was going to take care of the media industry, and invited other stakeholders, agribusiness, science, and technology. This was in 2018. And we were promised we would have the summit before Hipnotik. So the summit was now going to be part of the Hipnotik experience. And I will not do Hipnotik without the summit. So that's why I haven't had Hipnotik.
The judge actually added a comment in there to say nobody can give services for free.
Yes. And there were services we gave, consultations. We had meetings with National Youth Council over close to 6 months. We're buying food. We were hooking up supplies. We've been launched. We've been launched. So I invited Mbane Nkosi. And Sakiza came on Spatley's behalf. Shout out to Princess. Shout out to her. So imagine the embarrassment on my part. About the new Sakiza we were launching, and nothing gets launched because no money was paid. So the only option I had was to ask my legal team to please go get the money. My team wasn't paid. People were quitting. My reputation was on the line. Suppliers were publishing things about me in the paper.
And in the back
threatening Hipnotik. Like, we're not going to let Hipnotik happen until you pay us.
Okay.
When you're starting to build a reputation, this is someone who's being seen as someone sitting on money, not wanting to pay people. So this particular moment for me was, I won't continue until I set things right. I'll never do a Hipnotik until everyone's been paid. I won't do another Hipnotik until I can afford these agreements fully.
Ladies and gentlemen, that would be a good place for us to stop. I'm looking at my clock also. We are at exactly about 57 minutes, and we want to keep it under 60.
Yes, sir.
Sakhile Nkambule, thank you so much, bro, for coming out. Thank you for taking time. So shout out to Nevaeh.
Thanks,
shout out to Angelica for letting you come through today. Shout out to your whole family. Shout out to just everything that you're doing right now.
Listen.
Sakhile Nkambule is now in the property space. Sakhile Nkambule is still in the branding business, is still in the marketing, is still in the, that space. Architect my brands. What's Sakhile doing right now? If you can tell us in 30 seconds, and then drop off your social handles for people to
Thank you to Nkantolo Podcast. I'm very proud to have friends like you in my life, and I think people should realize how much I have great people around me. I'm not achieving all these things on an island, and currently I've got a lot of love and support in some corporate spaces. I've been doing consulting work, marketing. Some people have seen me recently doing Ngonyeni over the last 2 years. I am hoping to do more even out the country, which is something we're working on. I'm working on AI-driven solutions for music in Swaziland, like a resource center. So a lot of what we spoke about, if there's terms people want to learn, you can just Google Eswatini Music Resource Center. Right now, we're still working on the website, but there are quizzes you can play. And there's
Eswatini Resource Music Center. Sorry, Eswatini Music Resource Center.
No, just type that.
Oh, for real?
Just type that on Google, you'll see what.
You see how old I am? I think you still have to say .com.
Well,
.net.
So I don't want to say no. You're getting technical, which is correct. We are going to buy a domain. Saying domain. Right now, we're giving people access to our source code. Yes.
Sakhile Nkambule, thank you very much for coming through, my bro.
Thank you, bro.
Much love to you. Have a lovely weekend.